what landlords have been doing over the past few decades is realising and developing their economic power. And what seems to be happening at the moment is landlords are realising that they can just say, do you know what, there is a fee for viewing. And they say it and it becomes true. It's not that there's suddenly a massive structural adjustment in the number of people or the number of homes. It's landlords demonstrating the economic power they have over us. They make a demand, they see if we meet it, and when we do, they say, that is the reality now.
But is that happening all over then?
It's certainly happening in London.
They're charging for viewing, or am I sorry, did I just misinterpret that?
I've heard rumours about charging for viewings. I've heard rumours about bidding wars. I've heard rumours about listed rents not being the actual rent you pay. And of course, the more landlords cotton onto this, the worse the problem becomes.
Right.
Oh my God, Nick. You've heard a rumour that landlords are charging for viewings. So you've got no actual facts. It is illegal to charge tenant fees. It is illegal to charge a tenant for a viewing. By the way, as a landlord, Nick, we have to credit check the tenant, reference the tenant, do all of that stuff on the tenant for free. Yeah, all of that has to be done and paid for by the landlord. It is illegal to charge a tenant for a viewing. What you can do is take a holding deposit to hold the room while they go through credit checks and referencing. If they fail the credit checks and referencing, if they have lied on their application and not disclosed something, you could keep that holding fee. Typically 100 quid, 200 quid, whatever the fee is. Now the thing is, a landlord with a house, like you mentioned London, Nick. Let's say a landlord with a house where in London, their rent is £3,000 a month for a house. Well, if they take a couple of 100 quid, 300-400 quid even 300 quid, 10% of the rent, and they have to spend 2 weeks referencing a tenant. Well, technically the landlord just lost 1,500 quid because the house rents for £3,000 a month. That property been empty for 2 weeks going through referencing, where a tenant lied to them about something on their credit file, like maybe they didn't pay their previous landlord, antisocial behaviour, bad credit from missed payments in the past, not just on property, but on mobile phone bills, on loans from banks, etc. But they didn't disclose it. Well, that landlord has taken maybe 300 quid holding fee. That tenant has just lost that landlord 1,200 quid because that landlord has left their property empty for 2 weeks. That landlord, by the way, Nick, still has a mortgage to pay. They are out of pocket. So you can take a holding fee. If they pass the referencing, that holding fee has to be used as part of their rent. So if the rent was £3,000, and I'm going on the expensive end, and they've took a 300 quid holding fee, then that tenant is only going to pay 2,700 for the rest of the rent for that period. So the landlord is still lost. So if they pass the referencing, and it takes 2 weeks, the landlord loses the 1,500 quid they would have gotten those 2 week period. Half the month's rent. If they lie on the reference, and the landlord says no to that tenant, the landlord gets to keep the 300 quid, but they've lost 1,200, 15 minus the 3. And they've lost another 2 weeks while they have to go find another tenant, go through the same process again with the next tenant. I think you want to spend a little bit of time shadowing a landlord, Nick, dealing with some of the problems landlords have to deal with, the antisocial behaviour, the non-payment of rents, the destroying of properties, challenges that landlords have with higher mortgage payments, Section 24 tax, etc. I actually think on both sides of the fence, Nick, both sides, I understand the tenant challenges at the same time about trying to get properties. We solved the housing crisis by incentivizing developers to build more homes. We solved the housing crisis by incentivizing people to bring empty, rundown stock back into use. The councils aren't doing it. We solved the housing crisis by reducing interest rates so that rents can be reduced. If interest rates were less and house prices were less, I would still make a same profit margin on my deal. I don't need high rents. I need lower interest rates and lower prices. I agree with you on that part, Nick, but this country will be destroyed without landlords. And no, Nick, you should not be going on social media spreading rumours that are not true. You have got an audience of people watching you and they are listening to your rumour and taking it as fact. It is not fact, Nick. And you even know it's not fact because you said, well, I've heard this rumour, but I've got no facts. So please don't go on social media in the position you are in, talking about what you talk about without having actually researched it, Nick. He's a fucking tool.